Texas and Oklahoma being the final team standing in Oklahoma City. We welcome you to In the Circle After Dark. I am Victor Anderson, and I am essentially all by myself, at least for the time being. I'm by myself. We'll be joined by Eric Lopez. We'll be joined by Iowa State head coach Jamie Pinkerton in just a few moments, as Oklahoma has finished the mission. They have won their fourth straight Women's College World Series, the first program in D1 history to win 4 straight national championships, the second team in college softball history to win 4 straight national championships. Oklahoma City did it in the NAIA in the mid-90s. We will talk about everything we saw in Game 2, put a nice little bow on this champ series, this Women's College World Series, and the season as a whole in college softball. Plus, their rivals made some big news in the transfer portal earlier today. We'll talk a little bit about that towards the back end of the show. Hey, those of you who are joining in, welcome. Make sure you hit that like button, smash that like button. That way we get the show out to the masses. Share the link with everybody. Get them in here. We're going to be here for a while talking about this game and talking about Oklahoma and the incredible run that this senior class had. We had Scott Van Pelt, one of the few people at ESPN actually gets to talk about softball, not like those yahoos, Pat McAfee and Stephen A. Smith. He brought up some interesting numbers for this Oklahoma senior class. 235 and 15 for that core group of seniors for Oklahoma. 41 and 4 in the NCAA tournament. Had never been shut out, had never been run ruled, and had the highest winning percentage of any senior class, 4-year senior class in NCAA history. Just remarkable. Remarkable what we saw, what they'll culminate tonight. So get your comments in, because I know a lot of people are going to be talking about it. But yes, Rob from Canada, not a big OU fan, but got to give respect and credit where it's due. Indeed, we salute the champions, Oklahoma. And we knew that Texas was going to give them a fight in game number 2. We were not surprised that Texas hung back and forth with Oklahoma. What we were kind of stunned by, as we will get the conversation going again, Eric Lopez, Jamie Pinkerton will be joining me later on. I was surprised that Carly Keeney got the start tonight for OU, because I know a lot of people were mentioning in the chat last night when we were live after game 1, would Kelly Maxwell start? Would Nicole May get the start? No, Carly Keeney got the start for Oklahoma in game number 1. In game number 2, she held her own, gave up a run in the top of the second on a Henry single that scored Reese Atwood to get Texas a 1-0 lead. But then here came the Sooners right back, Pickering with the 2-run home run to give the Sooners a 2-1 lead. Texas was able to respond. They got a run back in the top of the third on an Alyssa Washington single. Texas only scored 1 run. They left the bases loaded. That proved to be costly. They got another run to take the lead in the top of the 4th. Then Oklahoma put a 3 spot in the bottom of the 4th. Sid Sanders had a phenomenal champ series, in my opinion. The bases clearing double, which proved to be the game-winning runs for Oklahoma, and they got themselves the lead. The game continues forward, and Oklahoma continues to apply the pressure. Now, the critical point of the game took place in the 6th inning. Mia Scott reached on an infield single, made the score 5-4. Scott, and y'all can correct me because y'all saw the same thing I saw. I think Scott was trying to induce some sort of rundown at third, but they get the ball back to first, and Sanders tags her out to end the inning with the tying run at third base, and Oklahoma makes them pay. Coleman with the RBI single, Ella Parker with the 2-run single, and for all intents and purposes, they close out that game and punch their 4th straight national championship. Yeah, Jesse James bringing in Keeney to Monticelli to Deal. Who want to guess? Gasso being Gasso. And Patty Gasso mentioned this when she was talking with Holly Rowe. How it was a staff all year long. And I know we talked about Kelly Maxwell. We'll talk about her outstanding performance out of the bullpen. Was named the tournament most outstanding player. We know about Nicole May, who gave Oklahoma quality work on the back end. But Oklahoma used Keeney, who was warming up in game 1, Monticelli, who only pitched 2 2/3 innings in the last 2 months, and then Kristen Deal to set the table for Nicole May and Kelly Maxwell to get the Sooners home to the 4th straight national championship. Corporton, Texas blew it by not grabbing that big lead in innings 1 through 4. May with the circle and lead, and Maxwell on deck. Yep. You have to take advantage of those opportunities. I just referenced in that 3rd inning where Texas had the bases loaded and couldn't think anything across. Opportunities against Oklahoma are going to be few and far between. You have to take advantage of those opportunities if and when you get them. Because if you do not, Oklahoma will make you pay. Again, you look at what happened with Texas in that 3rd inning. They get the single off the Washington. They get the single for Washington to tie it up at 2, but they leave the bases loaded. They get they call it the air from a Hodge. With Scott got one past her, Texas takes the lead, but then Oklahoma regains the lead in the bottom half of the inning on the Sid Sanders bases clearing double. It never ceases to amaze me, time and time again, when Oklahoma is down, they always have a response, either immediately in the next at bat or that next inning. That's what makes this team, this class in particular, with Jennings and Coleman and Brito and Hanson, that's what makes this team such a phenomenal team and will go down in history as one of the greatest teams, not just in college softball history, but in college athletics history. As joining us now, my colleague, Mr. Eric Lopez. Good evening to you, sir. Nice to have you join us. And, well, we have a champion in this Oklahoma, and I don't know.
Yeah, what else is new? Whoopie-doo. Anyway, let's get this done. All right, good. Really nice of ESPN not to show the trophy ceremony. I was waiting for that. Where is this? Where's this trophy ceremony?
Yeah, well, but Eric, they gotta get. But Eric, you know that. But it's game 1 of the NBA Finals. They have to get ready to talk about the blowout of the NBA Finals. The one-sided butt whipping that Boston gave Dallas.
We really can't talk right now in softball either. So, anyway, we should be joined by Coach Pinkerton.
Eric Lopez is one of those moves, ladies and gentlemen.
It's whatever. It's whatever. We should be joined by Coach Pinkerton here real shortly. So the trophy ceremony's on ESPN Plus.
Thank you, Daryl. Thank you, Daryl, for letting us know about that.
All right. Let me know. Is he all right? So he should be joining us here momentarily.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Texas just, they just weren't ready for the stage. To me, Texas gave this game away. Gave this as much as Oklahoma from the standpoint of you had chances there early, left runners on base, some mental mistakes. You got to play a clean game against Oklahoma. And Texas didn't either game. Tough to win on the road, though. I mean, it is tough to win on the road.
Eric's is one of those moves, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all can just tell Eric's going to be one of those moves. And yes, Andy, the strike.
I mean, I've been there. I was there 3 weeks ago. I mean, listen, I am not saying you should move the World Series there, but to suggest that Oklahoma doesn't have an advantage.
We're not going there. We're not going there.
But it is what it is. Yeah, the strike.
You still have to play the game. And as I said before you joined us, Oklahoma's not going to give you many chances. Texas had opportunities. They had opportunities, they had chances in the first 4 innings, and they couldn't capitalize on it. That's the biggest thing. Oklahoma was able to capitalize when Texas had the miscues, especially in that sixth inning where they broke the game open and solidified that fourth national championship. And Texas, you can't have the bases loaded against Oklahoma and score one run. You can't do that. Knowing that who you may have to deal with on the back end with May and Maxwell. You had to take advantage. And again, as Eric alluded to, Texas did not play a game. And then no, Allen, we're not. And Allen, for the record, I ain't going there. I'm not going there. This is where I've heard that I've seen and heard that conversation too much already. So I'm not going to engage in that tonight. Not going to. I don't have the energy, and I certainly don't have the patience. So we're not going to go there tonight. Eric was still working on getting Coach Pinkerton.
Yeah, he should be on. He should be on right now.
I'm looking to see the number. I know. Let's see. Daryl was asking a question. How many runners did they leave on base in the first few innings? I'm checking that right now for you, Daryl, because I want to. Because they left plenty of meat on that bone during those, especially in that third inning I talked about with the bases loaded. So I will look up those numbers for you and get them when I do have it available. Oh, actually I do. Texas left 7 on base tonight. And 5 of them were probably in the first 5 of them were in the first 4.
Yeah, you're not going to win that way. You're not going to win that way. That's too many.
Yep.
Way too many.
And if you look at it, Texas had a good game plan. They went with the staff approach, like what they did last night after Kavon got roughed up. Texas got out to an early lead. Oklahoma answered back. Texas chipped away, got the lead back again. But again, you can't get the bases loaded and only score 1 run, especially if you want to beat Oklahoma. Plain and simple.
Especially in that park. You have to be. Lee Corso used to say, you got to be a lot better than your other team in that setting. You got to be. And they were not. They were not. And that's the way the game goes. Is what it is. All right. I think hopefully
Eric's still working to get Coach Pinkerton on our podcast. And by the way, folks, we will have a normal episode coming up on Monday. We're going to really break down the championship series, the Women's College World Series. We already have, and we'll have a guest that will be joining us later on the future episode, a new coach in a new place. So just want to be on the
off season's here, y'all. The off season's here.
Yes. But there's no such thing as an off season for us here in the circle. For those of you who are joining us late in the chat, make sure you hit that like button. Get this program out to the masses. Make sure you get everybody to tell your people that we are getting over here. We appreciate your support. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us, especially with this new venture in the circle after dark. I mean, Pac-12 after dark is no longer with us. Rest in peace. So someone has to take that mantle. Why not us? You know.
Hopefully, we have better long-term success than the Pac-12 did.
Well, we've been doing pretty good so far.
Yeah, it'll be good. We'll be back to our normal scheduling, regular podcast starting next week. We're top 10 in the month, but look, it was an interesting game. Both teams went by committees. It turns out, I personally thought Mike White pulled Mac Morgan a little early, and the bullpen for Texas didn't get the job done. I didn't really agree with Oklahoma's approach on how they approached this game, going Carly Keeney to start, but it worked out because they got the lead at the end, and they basically wanted to close it out with May and Maxwell. So that's kind of the story there. And like you said, Texas left 7 on base, a lot of them early. You had to build that lead early. When you get Keeney, Deal, Monticelli, you got to score more runs if you're Texas.
Of course.
That's the story of the game. And then obviously the big hit is the Cindy Sanders, bases loaded, clearing double to take the lead. Then they bring in Nicole May. But again, Texas had a chance, second and third. They get the run in, a mental mistake there by Mia Scott, getting caught at first base, down 1. You're not going to win that way against Oklahoma.
Yep, you cannot beat Texas and yourselves. You can't. You can't do that. But it is what it is. And looks like
Yeah.
Our guest is ready and standing by, sir.
All right, joining us now, man who knows these two teams very well. He's been joining us here was last night, and it's, of course, Iowa State head coach Jamie Pinkerton joins us here. And Coach, congrats! Give me your initial thoughts here. Oklahoma does it. We see history. Maybe something you never thought you'd see a team go 4 in a row, but they've done it and they win it 8-4. What's your initial thoughts?
History. Probably shouldn't have doubted the Sooners. I think I was listening in the backstage before we could get the technical difficulties on my side done. Just how dominant this class is. I mean, 201-0 with a 4+ run lead. Haven't been shut out. Haven't ever been run ruled. We don't know if you always say you might not see another group like this, but it seems like Oklahoma has rolled it up the last few years or in the last decade, essentially. We might have the Celtics of the 50s and 60s going on here, or UCLA in basketball with John Wooden in the late 60s and early 70s. I think we've already called it a dynasty, but it is etched in stone dynasty right now. And it'll be interesting in the next 10, 15, 20 years what OU softball's Mount Rushmore will be.
Yeah, that keeps evolving every minute, right? I think it seems like that. Yeah. But you have a unique perspective because you got to face this senior class throughout their career. So you saw the growth of this senior class for them from the freshman year. Was there a moment, did you realize, my goodness, this group could be this special, this successful? I mean, because obviously when they had help from Jocelyn Allos of the world and then, Jordy Balls. But, yeah, I mean, Jennings, Coleman, they've natched Hansen. They've all kind of hit their own legacy.
Right. And I think I think they were special after the second one and then how they reloaded. And, I know in conversations that I had out when, Jordy went to Nebraska, just chit chat on the recruiting trail or different coaches that you're talking to. Is this a chink in the armor? And I always knew that as long as you're strong up the middle, think about the last 4 years behind the plate, on the mound, in the middle infield and center field. And over the last, this year, Jennings moving over to second and then and second base being filled in with Torres and Hodge.
Yeah.
That was the fill-in, but the constant has been Hansen, Coleman, and a solid pitching staff. And even though the names have changed, the results have remained the same. And and I maybe I was a little overzealous. Hey, good thing, one, we're not allowed to bet on NCAA sports. And two, if I would have been a big time loser because I thought for sure this was going to be a lot more exciting series than what it turned out to be.
Well, let's get into a little bit of the beginning here. Oklahoma decides to go Carly Keeney. Patty Gasso tells Holly Rowe that they're going to go by committee, and they want to go by this opportunity. Texas goes Mac Morgan. What'd you think of those decisions from both coaches to start the game? And it turned out to be us committee by staff game because both teams went deep into the other bullpens.
Yeah, I now obviously Mac Morgan. I think when we talked afterwards and mine and your text going back and forth. Need to get Victor's number so I can shoot text back and forth occasionally. But I thought that was a pretty solid choice. I knew. I thought I was shocked by Keeney. I thought it would be May, but after seeing what Coach Rocha and Coach Gasso, the game plan that they put together, it made sense the way they pieced it together. Because if you look back at it, Keeney started, and then they came in, they brought Monticelli to get that one big out, and then went to Dill to face the lefties. Then went back to right hand went to May, and then they brought Maxwell in to face the lefties again. So basically, they went major league on us. I mean, they just basically pieced it together. And she said in the talk that they were going to go matchups, and the lefty on lefty. I think it was great coaching, but I mean, the decision looks brilliant now that the game's over and how it was together.
It helped. I mean, Texas left some runners on base, so they had opportunities. They got on the board, but they left opportunities. Didn't really make them pay early, and that was my concern with Texas. What did you see from Texas offensively? They did some nice things, but yet I think Victor even mentioned it. They left 7 on base, and I thought a lot of that was early when they could have really, built some breathing room perhaps and really put the pressure on Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the keys. Whose pitching staff was going to be better? Obviously, it was OU's. Who was going to play better defense? Obviously, it was Oklahoma. Who was going to run the bases better? Oklahoma. And, and the freshmen. One of my keys that we talked about on the D1 podcast on Monday, and my days are running together. Monday
was both.
That was Monday and Tuesday. Which freshman was it going to be? Henry, Stewart, and Cavan, or Pickering and Parker? And that battle was a clear. That intangible went clearly to Oklahoma. So I just think some Oklahoma pieced things together, and the veterans chipped in. And then on the other side, Atwood had a tough series. Mia Scott, except for game 1 with the home run. Henry was the constant, I thought. Stewart didn't have a good series. And then I think when you go on to that, I just think that they weren't able to string things together. And I think the key was, I was listening to Victor talk, I think base running was key. So we don't get in. It's a tie ball game if Jolie Mitchell reads that in the gap right off the bat and she scores. And when they throw to the plate, Maloney's at third, and then she scores on Scott's single. And then you have a tie ball game. I think that was a key thing. And players misread. I mean, I bring runners sometimes, and I can misread from third base. I mean, I've done it and I understand misread, but on TV, when you saw it, you knew that was a clear gap ball. And she was already halfway to second to track back if it was caught. If she reads that sooner, I think she scores. And then, then Scott doesn't get caught off because there's nobody on. That mistake, obviously camera angles and stuff. I don't know what she was thinking, probably run down or see if she could take the base. And I don't think she expected Hodge to take a quick glance out of the side of her arm and flip the ball like you would between second base on a first and third. She just kind of turned around and gave a quick pitch, and then the ball was there and she was further off the bag than what she thought.
That's a fantastic point, because Texas has been so good all year in the base running.
Yep.
And Oklahoma won that battle. And then I think of the play where, what was it, a fly ball to Henry, and Henry kind of didn't think that Hodge would take third. Hodge took off, and Henry was like nonchalant there. It just felt like Oklahoma was just a step ahead, quick there. I don't know if it's the experience of being in that stage or if Texas things were in their head there, Coach, but that's a great point. The little things, right? The margin for error, it's huge in this difference. In a situation like this, it can make a world of difference.
I just think in that situation on Henry, obviously that didn't end up costing him because Hodge was stranded. But I just think that it was a line drive. She could have misread it a little bit. I thought she filled the ball back on her heels. I think Hodge sensed that and knew that there's going to be no momentum on this throw. And then the ball maybe got to Henry a little bit quicker than he thought, probably. Line drive right at you, you always freeze. And then I thought she was more on her heels. And then she had nothing behind the throw compared to the sac fly late in the game that with Sanders at third. Bella Dayton was able to get her footwork going and get momentum to the ball, and made the strong throw to the plate. I still don't think it was deep enough to score Sanders, but just the difference in the footwork there and getting ready. And Hodge had the speed to read that and go.
I want to go back. You mentioned they went Major League Baseball on us. They went baseball on us, and we've seen more and more baseball influence in the game of softball, Coach. And I want you to kind of tell us, because you're in it, how influential now, how much advanced analytics, matchups. I mean, we're seeing more and more baseball, like openers. Teams are throwing openers. Like, I grew up when I first started covering softball. It was, hey, you're going to throw your ace every game until the arm falls out. Well, those days are becoming, very few. And I think that was part of this narrative, this World Series, where a team like Stanford depended on Kennedy, Florida depended on Rothrock. At the end of the day, could not overcome deeper staffs. How much is this now in the game of softball? And when was the turning point when we went this direction in the sport?
I think the arrival of synergy. I think the arrival of 643 charts. I think the arrival of not having to go to VHS tapes. And I mean, you're talking about an era that I started when you got scouting reports like, hey, Victor's the coach at X university and I'm at Y university, and I call my friend Victor and get a scouting report that's on paper. And then, then you went to, VCRs and VHS tapes, and that took a long time, and you still kind of depended on written scouts and friends in the sport. But I think, then Huddle and VidSwap came where you could scrub, and it still took a lot of time, but with the evolution of synergy and 643 and all the information, I think there's no secrets. I mean, that was said throughout the regionals, super regionals. There's no secrets anymore with the video that you can get your hands on, and then using that in the percentages. I'm kind of I'm a tweener on that because I like the analytics, but I think it burned us sometimes. I can go back to some games that we took out a starter because analytics said you should, and we lost games. And there's times that you should trust the gut and go with the flow of the game. And I think we're getting away from that. And I think, I think those days too, and baseball, you kind of yearn for that, because now, you got a guy hitting 230 with 30 homers and 80 RBIs making 28 million, and people like Brett and Rose that had high on base percentages and high averages, but they, George Brett used to say all the time that he could hit a home run, but he preferred to hit a line drive in the gap, and he preferred the higher average. And I think we've gotten away from that. Look at Major League Baseball. Team batting averages are in the 230s and 240s when they used to be 260, 270, 280. And, and then there's a few teams in college softball, that, one of the stats today they were talking about, Texas led the nation in hitting batting average, but was sub 200 against Oklahoma in the six games that they played. So, I mean, sometimes analytics are good, but sometimes they can leave you hanging. And I think, and sometimes, you go with the analytics and it works and you win. But I still think you got to have a good feel for the game too.
Yeah, I mean, the great example I always remember was the Major League Baseball, the World Series in 2020, when Kevin Cash took out Blake Snell when he was dominating the Dodgers. Right, and he takes him out, and they blow the game, and the Dodgers win the game 6, even because, Blake Snell, it's the third time in the order. But guy's throwing incredible.
The eyes tell you one thing. Don't listen. Sometimes you have to let your eyes tell you what the charts can't tell you, and that's where coaches get in trouble.
And didn't Patty Gasso do that to some extent by throwing Maxwell yesterday, starting her after throwing 150-some pitches the day before, and say, no, even though we haven't thrown her back-to-back games, I want to throw her. If she feels good, she wants the ball, see how she's throwing. When they kept it, right? And the gut still has to matter, Coach, right? You still have those are still, and these are still human beings.
Exactly. And I guarantee you, if it's 8-3 the other way going into the late innings, you don't see Kelly Maxwell tonight.
Exactly.
So, but they got the lead, they got the insurance run, and basically Kelly came in a high leverage situation, got the out, and basically got a 4-out save. Totally baseball.
Well, and I agreed with that move. I was not surprised with that move.
No, I was not either.
I disagree because TV in the pregame, they were making a big deal about her not starting Maxwell. And I was surprised they were doing that because if you follow Coach Gasso in Oklahoma, that's not what they do. I was surprised, like you were, they went with Keeney. How much of that do you think was also a factor that, quite frankly, Texas only saw one inning of her throughout the year, that they wanted to throw some of the early pitchers that they didn't see as much, hope that they could hold them up enough? You don't think so? They don't think that played a factor in that?
No, I think is exactly what I just said. I mean, I would like to hear obviously the press conference. I think it was matchup based.
Yeah.
You started Keeney. I would be interested to know what was in the numbers. I mean, I can go back and research that now. I know
the one stat, Keeney had thrown one inning against Texas in the previous meetings, which was that was an interesting stat there.
And I think it goes back to get Keeney one time through the lineup, get back to the lefties, get to Dill, and then let Dill handle the lefties, and then go to May, and then bring Maxwell in for the lefties again. And I think that's kind of how it panned out. Not exactly, but I think that's the game plan. I mean, I would be interested to know Monticelli that had only thrown like 2 1/3 innings in 2 months. What matchup? What did they see to bring her in? She got one out, the ground ball to Sanders.
Right.
And I wonder that's where I'm interested. Why do you not let Keeney get that batter? Is there something in the 6-4-3 chart, something in the numbers that, obviously I'm not game planning OU in Texas. So I could
they clearly saw something there they like. But here's the advantage. When you're up a game, you can afford to do that, right? If you're down a game, I don't think they do that, but that's how huge. That's why they always say, right, game one is so pivotal.
Yeah,
because it gives you more options to what you got to do game two in that situation. And I think they decided we're going to go Maxwell all out game one, and then we're going to throw everybody game two.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the only one it didn't throw was S.J. Guerin, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, but I mean, I'm pulling up the box score right now. I thought I had memorized it, but I didn't. I'm pretty good with numbers and stuff. So, Keeney goes 2 2/3, which gets her one time through the lineup, basically. Monticelli gets the one out. Dill gets an inning. Then May gets them through back to the lefties again and to the high leverage situation. And then Maxwell pitches 1 1/3. So I think that was probably the game plan, and it was totally baseball, except we don't have you have to pitch the 3-batter rule.
No.
And I hope we don't pass it. We got enough rules. So
we definitely have enough rules.
But
people are saying
I think it was brilliant game planning. It wasn't. They weren't. I guarantee you, they weren't flying by the seat of their pants.
No, they knew what they were doing there.
Yeah.
We're getting people saying it was Jolie Mitchell. I guess that was who Monticelli faced there. That could be a matchup there. Velo, high velo, perhaps going off speed there. Who knows what the thinking there was? What, from Texas' point of view, what did you see from them from a pitching standpoint? Why did they struggle against this Oklahoma offense, other than the obvious reason Oklahoma is really, really good offensively? Let's get that out of the way. Not an easy lineup to get through the first place, but Texas had been so good pitching-wise leading into this point. What happened there? Was it just too much around the plate? What did you see from the Texas staff that they couldn't solve Oklahoma?
I hate to say this, but I think the moment was too big.
Yeah.
I mean, and I mean, you don't want to ever say that, but I just think just the way they had performed getting there, I just think that they one of the keys I told you once again, do not let the crowd get into it. And and the crowd was pretty much in both games, pretty much into it from the get-go. And I just think that the experience and the veteran leadership that OU had, and that we've been here before, we've done this. It's just another day at the park. I mean, that's kind of the way OU went. I mean, there was seriousness there, but you could just tell. The one thing you notice about OU and Texas, but OU more, and we played them in Norman and in Austin, is just the way pregame, how Oklahoma, you always walk that tight line. You don't want to ever be too tight on them, but you don't want to be too loose. And just Oklahoma just has this way of going about, and I always think they're kind of like the Yankees. They come in, they do their business, and whether you like them or not, they come in and they're professional. They get it done. Not saying Texas is not, but I just think playing the two and playing in their park, they go about their business different, and we go about our business different than those two.
Right.
So sure. I mean, I think each team has got their individual way of going about it, but there's just a just a business-like approach that Oklahoma has.
We're speaking with Iowa State head coach Jamie Pinkerton here on In the Circle. Oklahoma is the four-peat national champions. Rob from Canada makes a great point. Florida kept the crowd contained for those two games for the most part, Coach, because they were, and I thought did a great job in part because they took a lot of pitches. It was under their terms. They hit home runs early. They jumped on them and kept the crowd in containment. That's what you're talking about. Florida showed the blueprint there, Coach, that you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, but at the end, when it got to extra innings, you could see when it got into the eighth inning, you could see that the crowd in the later innings when OU tied it. Was it the sixth or the seventh? I think they tied it in the sixth, and then scoreless, and then they went into extras. I just think that that once they got the 3 outs in the eighth, then you knew, okay, now you got to save. And Oklahoma fans know this, and I've experienced it, over 30 years at my different schools. That you just, if you don't attack and get the lead and get them on their heels, which is difficult to do, sooner magic's going to happen eventually, and it happened, in this World Series.
If you're Mike White, what do you tell your team now? This is obviously gut wrenching. You lose in the Champ Series, but you bring up there's a lot of youngsters on this team that will probably be back. The core of this team will be back next year. And so there's a lot of promise here for Texas moving forward. But what do you tell your team as a head coach after, obviously coming up this close to a national title, but just still coming up short?
I think that you go in and just say, obviously there's disappointment in that locker room, but when the hurt subsides, use that to fuel your fire for next year. But say, hey, we're close. We've been here 2 out of the last 3 years. Am I right? Or is it? Yeah, 22. Yep. We've been here, the first time we scratched the surface. This time, in the early part of the series, I think they were more dominant than they were in 22. And then, they were seasoned by a tough super regional and super regional. But I think what you tell them is use this to fuel your fire, and eventually you're gonna, you're gonna walk through the door, whether the door opens and you walk through it or you bust it down. And I totally think I was high on them in this series, as you know. I said it was.
Yeah, you mean both. Yeah, you mean both.
I thought it was going 3, and I still think they have the pieces in place to be back. And I firmly believe that they will be back.
And this could be a learning experience for them, and getting the similar positions maybe the next year or two. That they'll be playing better for that. Victor, you got a question for Coach Pink?
I think, Coach, we kind of mentioned it, how Texas wasn't able to capitalize on those innings early on. How much did that help Oklahoma, knowing that Texas pushed them early on, but they survived the storm and they were able to capitalize off of that the very next inning?
Yeah, when Texas did score, they had an answer. I think, great teams do that. I know our 21 team that made the regional final, if it was almost, if you scored 1, we were going to score 2 or 3. That was Sammy Williams led and upper class led. And I think that was similar to what happened in the Champ Series here. But you go back and think about everything. Once Texas threw a jab, Oklahoma landed a punch, and that's using a boxing analogy there. And then you score 1 run, And I think what Oklahoma did was really good is once they put up a crooked number, I always preach to our team, no one scores after a crooked number. You got the momentum, and then you try to put up a 0 the next inning. And Oklahoma did that more times than not. And I think probably almost every time. I don't know, in the box scores how many times, but when they got a crooked number, they stopped the inning. And I also think I always tell our team, get through the first and second, win the third, fourth, and fifth, win the middle innings, and then chances are you're going to be in a position to close it out. And I think Oklahoma did a great job. If you probably look at the line scores of the two games, they did a lot of damage in the third, fourth, and fifth.
Patty Gasso now 8-time national champion, ties Mike Kendrea. You've obviously coached against her for a long time. You'd probably know her pretty well. Definitely know her better than the two of us. Although I will mention she did like my haircut at the Big 12 tournament. She complimented my haircut. So
well, they don't ever get to see mine. I'm wearing a hat.
No, I know. It was funny. She liked my hair because she saw my two different hairstyles between the regular season and the Big 12 tournament. But put it into words what she's done as somebody who coaches in this industry and this profession, what she's been able to accomplish here in this sport.
Wow. I had someone text me. I'm going to tell you a funny story before I answer that. Had someone text me and says, "Do you think Coach Gasso's done?" And I go, No. Coach Kendrea's got 8, and the stadium's not even done. I would be very shocked. I think people are saying, okay, she's made history. But the thing is I think she still enjoys what she's doing. And she's doing something what is amazing going on this past decade. People don't realize how tough it is to win and win at a high level, or win consistently, and then win at a high level, and then win at a championship level. I mean, there's 4 stages there that a team has to learn. And and she's done it for a lot of years. And hey, she's won. Think about it now. She's won a national championship in 3 different decades.
Mm-hmm.
So that you talk about longevity. So what is happening there is I have the utmost respect, and I really got to work closely with her. What I really like about Coach Gasso is we were together on the Big 12 return to play after COVID. And where I had already respected her, I've known her since the 90s, and I've always played her home and home when I was at Tulsa. I always played her home and home when I was at Arkansas, and then obviously in conference with Iowa State. And she's never been more than gracious. But what I really enjoyed working with her on this return to play is, some times you get into conferences and everyone's looking out for their agenda. And with Coach Gasso, it was always what's best for the conference, what's best for the conference, what's best for the conference. And my respect level, which was already very high, went off the charts. Because she cares about the sport, she cares about the student athletes, and then she cares about everybody in the conference. Even though there's a rivalry, we all pull for each other in the Big 12. Obviously they'll be moving on to the SEC, but even this year with the new additions of Coach Vesely, Coach Eakin, Coach Ball Malone, all the coaches want the conference to do well, and I think that carries over to her teams and her programs, and I think that's another thing why she's been able to win at a high level for a long time, because she does the little things, and she knows that the sport is only going to get better if we all work together.
Well, what struck me too, I talked to her at the Big 12 tournament, and she, I asked her about what does it mean to win this last game Big 12 title, and she's like, I grew up, I was a Big 8 girl. This is what I know. She's the all-time winningest Big 8, Big 12 coach, and she's been so respectful of all this. Because you were there at the Big 12 tournament, you got bombarded with some of the media. Was like, well, this is the last time for this and the last time for that, and she's like, I enjoy the Big 8, Big 12. I'm always going to enjoy be a Big 12 person. Obviously, they're looking forward to the SEC, but she had nothing but positive things to say and great memories, she said, about the Big 8 and the Big 12.
Well, the thing you got to remember, as coaches, we have no control over that.
Correct. Right.
So,
Right.
I mean, whether, I've never asked the question of, I've been in the Big 12 twice during reorganization, and, I would never say names, but in the first shuffling, I know of two coaches that was not happy about it. And, how many schools left, so you can probably narrow it down. But it was, but it's, it's kind of, you do it because it's your job and it's what you're told to do. And, in this new landscape and what's going on, we don't know what the future holds. I hope it doesn't affect what's going on with paying athletes and NIL and all that stuff. But there's going to be major changes. We just don't know what it is yet. And you and I talk, you seem to think I have an uncanny ability to know what's going to happen. And I don't know. I don't
better
know.
than me.
I don't know if what's happening today is good for the sport of softball at the end of the day.
I think that's up in the air. We could go multiple hours on that topic. I think it is what it is.
I think it's going to be more bad than good.
I think for college athletics, not just softball. I think I think this goes beyond softball. I really do, and I definitely agree. I think there's a lot of questions there that we'll have another time to discuss that. But I do want to ask you about some things though, because can you please promise me we're going to get rid of this replay of the runner leaving early? I know why it was put in is to see if the runner left early trying to steal a base, but it's interesting, Coach, because before the year everybody was telling me we're putting this, we're trying to speed up the game, we're putting the pitch clock,
and if anything, you're slowing the game down.
And my concern, Coach, from an outside, because I'm trying to think from a casual fan standpoint. If I'm a casual fan and I'm tuning in and I'm seeing somebody reviewing a runner leaving early, they're like, why are we doing like what? They're going to flip the channel. They're going to flip it off. And I don't blame coaches for this, for the record. I would challenge too. So I'm not saying this is the coach. I'm just saying I understand why they put it, but maybe this is one that we may need to revisit here, Coach. What are your thoughts on this?
There's been a survey sent out. I don't know if I'm at liberty to talk about it, but 24 and 25 obviously is this rule cycle. But there was a survey sent out about what can be on the leaving early, when it can be used. I'll be interested to hear what the results are on that. But I think there will be a tweaking to that. I think it has to be. Yeah. It becomes, at first, be quite frankly, it ticked me off because it happened to us. And then I go, man, that's, and then it became a phase. And then, it's worked for some and it's worked against us some. I don't think that's the intent of the rule. And that's what I'm more concerned about. And I think also too, Victor, to your point, as I think the Big 12 is going to DV Sport. So as a conference, we'll have the same replay system. Right now, we have different replay systems at different schools, and you don't have when you zoom in, it pixelates, and then you don't have clear evidence. And right. I think that'll solve a lot of the problems. But I think we got to be really careful. And also too, someone was asking me on the challenges, if you have two challenges, if you get one right, do you get it back? You got to be careful with that too, because if you're right 3 times, then that's 3 times. I mean, that's still 2 more times you can delay the game.
Right.
Well, that's interesting you bring that up, because Patty Gasso mentioned that in her presser this week, because they asked her, hey, is there anything you would change in the sport going on? What would you change? And she had the smile like, I would like to get my challenge back if I win. She jumped, right? In other words, she didn't want to got to get into any time. She's just like, that is simple. But I will defend you coaches in this. I think sometimes you get put in a tough spot where you have to challenge a play earlier, decide if an umpire misses a call. I don't think you should get punished and not have another challenge. You should not lose a challenge because somebody else made a mistake. So I can understand why, football, you get a challenge back. I now I understand what you're saying. It could also drag out if you give coaches too many challenges. But I don't think you should. I do think coaches, if they challenge and are right, are proven to be correct, I don't think you should. I think you shouldn't be punished either, Coach.
No, true. But also too, if you use it, say the instance today, when Coach White used it, got out of the inning,
Yeah.
they had already scored. They were in a position to possibly tack on, got out of the inning, and then had a rally of their own. So I mean, it worked in that situation. But the thing is if you lose that, then you got to be really, really, really careful of when you use the last one, because in the late innings, I've seen coaches go out, they've used their challenges, then they've gone out and try to say, hey, this is game changing, and no. I mean, a single fair or foul down the right field line, that's probably a bad example, but there's a challenge made and they want the umpires to get together and challenge it or review it because they think it's game changing, and it's not. So you got to be really careful on how to use those challenges, because you don't know if that's going to work in the late innings, that where they will review it on their own.
How much do you talk to your players about being honest in that regard? Because I've seen it so many times this year where a play is close and the player looks at the coaches like, they're getting that sign like review. But it's important for them to be honest with you, right? Because you don't want to burn a challenge, but at the same time you want to hear your player out. So how do you handle that with your players, and how do you guys just
I think you got to build a trust. You got to educate them. And you got to say, hey, you got to make darn sure that you have an out. Like Jada Coleman did on the catch. I think it was against Florida, where that she didn't, maintain the ball and it got loose. She was in the on deck circle or on the top step doing this. I think it's a situation that you got to trust your players and you got to educate them. Hey, if you know for sure she's safe, shake your head at me immediately. And early in the last year, or has it been 2 years now? Yeah. Well, when it first started, I was emotional about sometimes going out, oh man, that's bang, bang, let's do it. And then you got to sit back and think about, how's that going to affect you in the game, or another coach getting emotional in a situation, or even a player. And then I found that this year we were a lot better about thinking it through, taking, not 29 of the 30 seconds, but going up, asking the umpire what they saw, and then deciding on whether to challenge it, but still educating the player. Hey, if it's for sure, give it to me. If I look at it and say, like, give a signal, and you shake your head, no, don't challenge, or yeah, I'll challenge, just have a certain degree of certainty that you're going to be correct.
That's fascinating, and I'm always interested to see how that all gets adjusted in the offseason. Thankfully, none of this really had a big impact, I think, at the end result of any of these games at the World Series. I'll be honest with you, Coach, I was worried if we were going to have a postseason World Series game decided either by a replay or lack of replay, or runner leaving early. We didn't get to that point, so I'm pretty.
And I don't think you're going to in Oklahoma City. There's too many camera angles.
Okay.
And I'll be honest with you, when you play at Texas, that's the best replay system in the Big 12 because of the Longhorn Network. I mean, there's just so many different angles. I think where you get in trouble is at the individual ballparks where camera quality, I mean, the different systems, and, Big 12 is going to DV Sport. I don't know. And I have my opinions on whether the person making the call should be involved in going into the room and making the decision.
I don't think they shouldn't be.
Yeah, I know. I mean, and I've said that, but then I've talked to other umpire coordinators from around the country, including the Big 12 and Sally Walker, and they say the reason they do that is because they bring valuable input to why they made the call, where they were at, what they saw. But I also know that there's a prejudice there, or a bias, that you don't want to be wrong.
Right. You feel strongly in your call.
Yeah.
It's tough.
And I think you send it off to a crew in Dallas that you don't know who the crew is, so then you can't get mad at each other.
You centralize everything, and then if they see anything late in the games, and they can buzz down instead of having the coach use a challenge.
And I'll say this, because I covered the Super Regional with Florida Baylor, and they use the SEC kind of where the umpire is mic'd up. So you know what's going on at all times. I thought that was well handled. So I like I'm glad to hear what you're saying about what the Big 12 is going to do in the scenario. So I think that's a good thing. That's very good. All right, we can talk about rules forever. This is what me and Coach do on off-season stuff. We got nothing better to do. I'll leave you with this. When you look back at this 2024 Women's College World Series, and what will you remember? And obviously Oklahoma making history, but what will you reflect back when you look back at this year?
Oh, there's several, but I think obviously Oklahoma winning 4 and making history.
Yeah.
But I don't know Marissa Young well. I had an opportunity to tell her that she's been in my thoughts and everything she'd been through, and to see her go through that adversity and gut wrenching with her husband, and to be able to maintain that program over the summer into the fall and spring and make the World Series. I can tell you right now, being a human, I couldn't have done it if I was in that situation, and for her, to depend on her faith and do what she did with Duke. Awesome. So, I mean, those are 2 storylines. I think, obviously, I think Texas had a good story with a young team and some young players making it. I think, Kenny Gajewski once again, reloading with all of every position had a new player. I think you can go to every team. Florida riding the arm of Rothrock and timely hitting from Skylar Wallace and who had the other home run? 27 is a Kistler.
Against Oak State, yeah.
I think you can go up and down Stanford. With
Najee Kennedy, yeah.
Yep, with so I think you can go to each team and they each have their story and their journey. But I think just kind of with what and that affects your team if your head coach is hurting and trying to get through life and get them through life in college. I just think that's a fantastic story, and maybe I shouldn't be talking about it because but I just had a lot of thought in what Coach Young did at Duke.
No, that's a great point about Young, which you had to deal with and to get Duke there for the first time ever in program history.
Yep.
To get to the World Series,
great moment. I mean, like I said, each team has a story, right?
No doubt. That's what makes this sport great. That's why we follow it on a daily basis. We're around it. It's an exciting sport because we have great people in the game like you. And I want to thank you. I know Vic wants to thank you. You took time out of your time here to talk to us. The only bummer is we don't get a game 3. I think we all were. I was hoping for a game 3 like you were.
That means I got to go recruiting tomorrow.
Hey, that's up to you. I don't know what at least you got something to do. I got nothing to. I don't know what I'm going to do. Yeah. But you've been awesome. You joined us for these 2 games. You also joined us on the D1 preview show live on the show. You've been fantastic. I knew you'd be great at this, offering analysis, and you delivered. And I appreciate this. I owe you for this. And I have no problems. The Chiefs can beat the Dolphins anytime you want, just because you're more than welcome.
Thanks. Thank you. Feelings are mutual. I mean, anytime that I can get on and help someone that's trying to help our sport and promote young women in today's world and help them get to, I have a daughter and a son, and I think everyone knows, a lot of people knows the story that she's thriving in a man's world as a program manager, as an electrical engineer, and getting 3 or 4 promotions. I think I have to thank all the women that I've coached, because they helped me get to that point where I could coach my daughter through those situations. And anytime that I can help the sport and promote women, I'm going to do it. I know a lot of my years are behind me, but what few, I'm going to continue to do it and continue to help the sport. And anytime you guys put in time to do something to help the sport also, I'm always willing to pitch in. I don't know if I'm good at it, but I'll get on here and make a fool out of myself at the least.
Trust me. No, you're fine. You were fantastic.
Yes.
You give the analysis and you make us sound good. It's always enjoy. I always love talking softball with you and much more. We'll do this. I know we'll catch up later in the fall as you get set for the next season. But until then, enjoy the recruiting. Enjoy all the what's coming the next few months. But thank you again for helping us cover this unique, historic championship series that I think there's a good chance could be the most watched championship series of all time, based on the TV numbers that have come out already. And the all Big 12 championship, Texas and Oklahoma, and you give great insights there. Thank you for taking the time.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys, and thanks for having me.
That's head coach Jamie Pinkerton, Iowa State head coach, joining us here on In the Circle. It was fantastic. He was fantastic. Yes. Offers analysis. Folks, the only show give you an actual current head coach.
Yes.
Who played against these two pro teams.
Mm-hmm.
Gives you those insights. No other show. Go ahead. Find me. Find the other show. Didn't happen. Anyway. Some news comes out real quick. Justin McLeod tweeted this out. He's in Oklahoma City. The 2024 Women's College World Series All-Tournament team is out. I'm going to read this quick. Give me your reaction, and I want to read some comments from the audience. We're going to get to some of your thoughts and questions there. So if you've got questions, keep coming. We're not done yet. Obviously, Kelly Maxwell, most outstanding player. No surprise there, right?
No surprise.
Okay. Members there from Florida, Jocelyn Erickson, Keegan Rothrock, Reagan Walsh. I'm happy that Rothrock is in there.
Yes.
Well deserved, what she carried there.
Especially deserved.
Najee Kennedy, Stanford, lone Cardinal, represented there. That makes a ton of sense. Tegan Cavan, Mia Scott, Katie Stewart for Texas. And then for Oklahoma, Kinsey Hansen, Tiari Jennings, Ella Parker, Cassidy Pickering, and Kelly Maxwell. Any qualms there? Anybody?
I have no problem. I love the fact that they added Pickering to the tournament team, especially what she did in the Champ Series. The home run she had, hit home runs in both games of the Champ Series. And her and Ella Parker, they're the future of this Sooner program. Both of them are freshmen. Both of them have big contributions to OU's run to get here. And this freshman class that came in was highly touted, and they're the ones that are going to be carrying that mantle from Coleman and Jennings into the SEC in 2025, and they got their careers off to a very nice start. And yes, no Skylar Wallace, Fang 9, no Skylar Wallace from Florida on the all-tournament team.
That's interesting. Good catch there. Yeah, she didn't hit the high average.
She had her moment. She had her moments, though.
Yeah, no, you're right. Obviously, it's the last four teams standing that are represented there.
Yes.
I'm not sure there's anybody else that you would put in there. Like we said, maybe, like I said, I mean, Wallace, I'm a big Wallace fan. So I can understand the talk there, but I think she just didn't hit it. Like, she kind of got it scuffled a little bit at times hitting wise.
She kind of reverted back to that slump she had back in April before the SEC tournament.
Kalen Dean, the four big conferences should all be centralized. Wouldn't expect it from the Big Ten or ACC, though.
Facts.
I don't disagree. Facts. Fair. Rob from Canada. The other issue is nobody wants to upstage an umpire by reversing a call. Hence why central replay is the way to go. Well, it was interesting. I think that's where we're headed with this. I definitely think we're going to be headed with this with the SEC and the Big 12. Our SEC is already on it. How tough will the locker clean out be for Jennings, Coleman, Hansen, May, and the rest of the 4-year Sooner seniors? That's a great point.
Yeah, but they can say every time they clean out their locker at the end of the season, it was after they won a national championship.
Womblero chiming in from Konnichiwa from Japan.
Konnichiwa.
Are you up in the morning watching the game?
Of course.
How's that working? I don't even know.
He was listening to Chris playing.
Are you doing that one, Blair? We want to play a breakdown of that.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got. Let's see. Yeah, people commenting on how great Parker is.
Not surprised. Robin Canada brings up an interesting comparison. Not sure about anyone else, but Parker looks identical to Allo at the plate.
Oh, easy.
Easy.
I'll tell you though, Dave Roberts' niece is off to a heck of a start.
Yes.
And I covered her.
They could have used it tonight because they could have used it tonight.
Parker was the Big 12 outstanding player in the Big 12 tournament. So
yes,
certainly will be interesting.
Hey, look, Wambrell started. Looks at the game started at 9 a.m. Japan Standard Time. So rep is with the Sooners for Wamblero.
Blair, are you going to watch Japanese softball pro league over there? Maybe you could be our analyst for the Japan league. Let's see. What else we got here? People talk about Brito. Yeah, she was Brito. So, yeah, look.
It's a beautiful thing.
4 in a row, Oklahoma, Division I, has never happened before. You said, who's the other school that happened?
Oklahoma City in NAIA. Did it 4 in a row.
Coach, you're not going to hear that anywhere else but here.
But everyone else will copy it and say like they're their own. But that's what makes us us.
You're right. Nobody ever does bring that up. I don't think they were brought up on the broadcast, were they?
Nope.
I didn't think so.
Nope.
Yeah, narratives.
Again,
let's see. So is the statue not up yet for Patty? I thought the statue was supposed to be up there in the Houston series. Maybe it was.
I have no idea. You gotta talk to your people in Norman to find out the situation.
That's a Sean thing. The OU team wanted this natty for Maxwell more than 4 in a row. I don't know about that. I think they wanted the 4 in a row. Let's be real. They wanted the 4 in a row. The Japan League has about 10 teams. Like Monica Abbott just retired. Yes, she retired recently.
Yes, she did. By the way, speaking of retirement, Eric, some news that broke earlier today. Haley Wagner has announced her retirement from pro softball. Yeah, so that happened today. Kelly Barnhill also announced her retirement as well.
Yeah, Haley Wagner doing good. We're going to try to get Haley Wagner. Actually, I was talking to her. Hope to get her on the show in the future here. Yes. During this offseason, certainly to the least. A couple things to look for in case you missed it. Game 1, the TV numbers came out for Game 1 prior to the start. There were a couple things that actually came out prior to the start of Game 1.
A lot of things came out again.
That was funny. So they Game 1 did about a 1.9 million. It's the most watched Game 1 of a champ series ever.
Wow.
Ever.
Wow.
To put it in perspective, usually Game 1s are averaging anywhere from a 1.3 to 1.5. So that is a monster number for a Game 1. I expect, and usually Game 1s to Game 2, there's a bump. There's usually an average around 500 to 600,000 bump average. I think there's a good chance, and this game was competitive for a while.
And here's the other thing that's going to help. Yeah. Game 1 of the NBA Finals was a blowout in the first half. Boston was a running away.
More importantly, this game wasn't until the end. It was very back and forth. So
correct.
If they can get a slight bump, if they continue the average, this game could get over 2 million viewers on average. It would be the first game over 2 million viewers since Game 2 of Oklahoma FSU 2021. If they get 1.92 million or more in the next for Game 2, it will average out to the most watched champ series of all time. Speaking of Haley Wagner, Michigan and Florida averaged 1.9 million for the 3 games series back in 2015. That's the most watched championship series. So we could see some history here on the TV side, numbers wise, from that standpoint. We'll see what the numbers come out with. Now, keep in mind, and this has been discussed in a lot of the sports media landscape, a lot of these numbers are bigger now because they're including out of home,
that in the streaming, the cell phone, the sports bars.
Yes. So keep that in mind. That helps a little bit. You could argue if they would have done that a few years ago, some of these other numbers would have been bigger. But as of now, and hopefully we'll get the Game 2 numbers on Friday. And I'm sure ESPN will promote that if it's a big number.
Yes.
But the Texas-Oklahoma Game 1 is the 7th most watched college softball game of all time.
Wow.
So it already in the top 10. The most watched college softball game of all time. Would you like to guess, Vic? And the audience, feel free if you want to guess. Ooh. Who is the most watched college softball game of all time? All right. Feel free to guess as well. I'm going to give you all a few more minutes to think about that.
Highest rated college
softball game of all time. One game. But anyway, I'm going to give you some stats. There has been 4 college softball games all time that have averaged over 2 million viewers in a single game. And I think there's a chance Texas and Oklahoma, we'll see if it happens, but this game, if history repeats itself and they get that game 1 to game 2 bump, remember, there's always casual people that are interested. Hey, they might make history tonight. I think there's a chance that game 2, Oklahoma-Texas, could become the 5th game ever to get it over 2 million viewers average. Now, some games have peaked at over 2 million, but ended up averaging 1.9. I'm talking about averaging over 2 million viewers, including that 2021 FSU-Oklahoma game, which averaged 2.08 million viewers. That had been the most watched college softball game up at, last night, the game 1. It's the most watched softball game since that game.
Well, we're seeing some interesting guesses in the chat. Fang 9 thinks Tennessee, Arizona game 3 could be up there.
Yeah, give me. Let me read off the guesses, and I'll tell you who's right.
Tennessee, Arizona game 3. That was the one where Terran Moat finished the job.
Who are the other guesses?
Oklahoma, UCLA game 2, 2019. UCLA walking off to win a national championship.
Yeah.
Mark Bennett agrees with Fountain Juan Blero 2019 OU UCLA.
What's your guess, Nick?
I'm leaning towards Tennessee, Arizona, because we've had conversations about this, and you brought it up a couple of times, that Tennessee, Arizona game 3, where Terran Moat pitched the Wildcats at back-to-back national titles.
Is that your final answer, Victor Anderson?
Dun, dun, dun. Yes, it is.
Who was the other person that was it Fang Nai? Fang
Nai said Tennessee, Arizona game 3.
You and him are correct. Tennessee, Arizona is the answer. Game 3, 2007 Champ Series. Monica Abbott against Terran Moat. We've had both of them on. We had Moat on. We had Abbott on recently, as a matter of fact. This about a month and a half, 2 months ago.
Yes.
And we talked about this game. We've had Terran on many a time talking about that game. But Tennessee, Arizona, 2007, 2.33 million viewers.
Wow.
The most watched college softball game of all time. Edging out Michigan, Florida, game 3, 2.27 million viewers. The third most watched game was Michigan, UCLA in 2005. We've had Beth Mowins talking about this series. Michigan winning the national title. Game 3 did 2.24. So, and then FSU, Oklahoma over 2 million. For those that guessed Oklahoma, UCLA 2019, that game did 1.8 million viewers overall, which is about the 11th most watched softball game of all time. So, we'll see where this game ends up, game 2. There's probably why there are some disappointment that there's not a game 3, Vic, because I think if there would have been a game 3,
it would have shattered the record.
It would have had a shot to maybe compete with that. Thank you, Fang. Now you're right. See, this is why everybody needs to subscribe to In the Circle. I listen too much in the scrub. There's no such thing as you listen too much.
There's never such
getting those knowledge. Yes, no, that is something to watch on Friday. Is what does this game 2 average? And does it, again, Michigan, Florida in that 3-game series averaged 1.9 million. That's the most watched championship series of all time.
I think this one will pass it. I think this one's going to pass it.
And it definitely should pass the record for the most watched 2-game series, which is Oklahoma, UCLA 2019. That averaged about 186. So that should break this record at minimum. At minimum. I don't expect a decline. I know some people were suggesting, well, because of the NBA game, there's going to be a decline. No, that is not true. If anything, you're going to have a flip of the channel. You mentioned the NBA game was non-competitive there. I do think one thing that helped Texas, obviously Texas, Oklahoma, 1 versus 2. Did you realize it was only the second time we've had a 1 versus 2 in the Champ Series in softball?
I know Beth Mowins brought that up. What was the other? Did they ever say what the other instance was of 1 versus 2?
Wasn't it? I thought it was Michigan, UCLA. I thought that's what she said.
Michigan, Florida, 2015 was it?
No, Michigan, UCLA, 05.
Oh, the first, ironically enough, the first year of the championship.
I think so. Fang Knight, can you correct us if I'm wrong? I don't remember. It was all vague.
Wow.
We were in a tornado warning, folks. Oh, it was OU UCLA, what she said. Okay, is that what she said?
OU UCLA,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
OU UCLA, that makes sense. Okay, I misheard.
I
we were literally,
we were in a tornado.
Oh, you were there. How the heck? That's right, you were there. How did you not remember that? In fairness, we were in a tornado warning during the pregame in the World Series. That was a little
that was a little a little interesting.
So 2019. So it's the second time. Texas and OU now, the second one on that one for the Chiefs here. So keep that in mind from a TV number standpoint. That be coming out. I think it'll come out late Friday since it's not a holiday weekend. We should get some numbers there on Friday.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to write a TV recap at some point on D1softball.com, but we have so much content, folks.
Yes, we do.
I don't know if you've noticed D1 softball. Man, we're killing it. I'm not going to brag. I mean, I'm not even involved, so I'm not even like bragging. Like, I'm just saying the folks over there are killing it.
They doing their thing, man.
Jenna Becerra, who I'm going to try to get on the pod before she gets back home, which
Paige Halstead, was
that 2019 Bruins national championship. Brenna, who does the photography and video, they've been knocking out. Jenna Becerra interviewed Danielle Laurie today. You may have seen that video. They've had interviews with Natasha Watley, Kat Osterman, Jessica Mendoza,
Holly Rowe,
the family of Tiari Jennings, like the who's who. They all come to D1 softball, Vic. They talk to every of us.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm just saying. I mean, what else are we to say? But they have knocked it out of the park. It has been enormous coverage over there, and check it all out. Graham Hayes had a great article about the historical context of what we're witnessing there. Van Potke. We're not done, by the way. The beauty of this is we're going to continue to provide content for you. We got the transfer tracker going. Big news that came out because this is the second year in a row a big news transaction happens, by the way, before a World Series game. This is an interesting trend. Remember last year, Tim Walton parted ways with Mike Bosch right before the eve, I believe it was the Oklahoma FSU Game 2, as a matter of fact.
Yes, correct.
And then right before tonight, Game 2, Ruby Malin announces on her social media platform that she is going to Oklahoma State to be there. Not a surprise if you follow that very closely, but nonetheless, it is official. Big pickup for Kenny Gajewski and the Cowgirls. They get their ace for next season. So that's up until this point, that's been the big transfer move right there. We'll see in the portal still ongoing on that. Coaching moves going on. Kerry Kumar, of course, we mentioned earlier, the new head coach at Ohio State. The Malvos, the new head coaches at Auburn. Some changes at Grand Valley. Our previous guest on this show, Meredith Gorsuch, the new pitching coach now at North Texas.
Yeah. Sydney Sherrill.
Going to focus on playing, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some more moves. There are going to be a lot of transactions still going on.
Yes.
And so we'll see. We'll see how that goes. So there's go. The D1, go to the social media, D1 Softball on Twitter, go on Instagram, and you will see a lot of those interviews. If you're an Instagram person, go there. You could go also on the Twitter X. You can find those videos that I am referring to, those interviews. And then the articles, obviously, on the D1softball.com. I know for a fact Jenna Becerra and Amanda Lorenz will have one more episode of D1 Softball next week. That will be on the D1 Softball.
It was great. It's network. Grand Canyon, Stephen. It was Grand Canyon. With the
it's late.
It's 12:20 on a Friday.
But we'll see. But so there's a lot of news to come, and we're gonna still cover it. We're still gonna be on in the circle. We're gonna be on all off season.
Yes.
We'll have some interviews. And we're going to talk about everything it's landscaping. And listen, Vic, I mean, quite frankly, I mean, you mentioned it. We've joked about it, but we are about, 25 days away from July 1st, which will be a significant day in college athletics.
The landscape of college athletics, as we know it, will change officially on July 1st. And I think we should do a live show just to kind of talk about it and share our thoughts about it. Possibly.
Sure. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to work on some people I'm trying to have for that, but that's obviously going to be significant landscape and try to see what it means for softball. I mean, it's going to change college athletics, not just softball. Lots on the horizon. And, in a way, I mean, tonight marks the end of an era, not in a lot of ways from just, this was Oklahoma and Texas's last game as a member of the Big 12. I think a very successful year for the Big 12 and everybody. Remember, they had the most watched Big 12 championship game ever provided by these two teams. This is probably going to be the most watched championship series. Big 12, we'll see what the final RPI numbers come out, but they have a chance to overtake the SEC. Definitely the Pac-12. Maybe the SEC could go back and forth as far as who's the number one conference for the year 2024. We'll see what the final numbers crunch that out. But nonetheless, last time we talked Pac-12.
Yes.
And I think that's, to me, Vic, what I remember about 2024 season and the World Series. It was the end of an era in a lot of ways. The end of the Pac-12, the end of OU Texas in the Big 12. That's significant. And especially in this sport, it's very significant. As Patrick Murphy said, you can't write history of softball without the Pac-12.
You can't.
And that's going to be strange next year. That is going to be strange. I know you want to do the live reaction. And listen, folks, nobody's going to have a harder job starting in July of 24 all the way to 25. No producer in the country will have a harder job than Victor Harrison, because he is going to have to edit the bleep out of me every time I screw up. So what conference this team is in. It's going to happen, Victor. I hope you understand.
Do you want to go? We may have to work a deal about every time you mess up, what your punishment will be. We may have to talk about that off air.
Yes, maybe on that July 1st show you're proposing. Maybe that's what we'll do.
I have time
for the people there. So anyway, but we'll see what happens on all that, and obviously we'll be remembered for the history of Oklahoma going 4-peat. That will certainly be remembered. Oklahoma. I'm sure they'll probably celebrate Saturday.
There'll be a celebration, I'm sure.
I would hope. And then, listen, congrats to Texas. You got to the Champ Series and just, came up short. But this nucleus for Texas has a chance to be back next year. I would argue, as I've said, unfortunately, now we still got to wait till the portal and all that stuff happens. But if we had to do a way too early poll next year, I would argue that Texas would be number one preseason next year. What they have potentially returning, plus he's adding another freshman class there. Mike White's doing a good job there. I think Texas will be up there. I think Florida will be up there.
Florida will be in the top 5 without question.
I think Stanford with Najee Kennedy always has to be in the top 5. I still think Oklahoma's going to figure it out. They're going to be top 5. They have the number one recruiting class coming in. They're going to be active in the portal. This is not. Let's not act like, oh my God, Oklahoma is disappearing.
Oklahoma will be there. Oklahoma will be there, folks. Don't worry.
I also think Oklahoma State with Ruby Malin now in the equation, they're going to be in the mix. They'll probably be the favorites in the Big 12. And then UCLA, can't forget UCLA with Tinsley and Terry. They do lose Maya Brady, and we'll see how that goes. But UCLA will be the heavy favorite in the Big 10. And I think they will be up there in the mix as well. So we'll see how that goes. That will be 2025. Way too early polls. But again, as we know, things could drastically change.
It's fluid with the transfer.
Well, and listen. This offseason right now, it's low key, but something's going to – I have a feeling something's going to happen.
Something's going to happen, and that's going to start the domino effect.
Probably when Vic goes on vacation, traveling.
Oh, boy.
When are you going out to Chicago again?
I am not disclosing those details. I'm not disclosing
that's going to stop the news. Come on.
I am not disclosing the dates until it gets closer to those dates. There will be a select people who will know, and it will be made known at the appropriate time. One of the other interesting notes too will follow is the schedules will be. Oklahoma, Texas SEC schedule. Mm-hmm. For example, Washington, UCLA,
Oregon, Big 10 schedules. Stanford, Cal, ACC,
Stanford, Cal, ACC schedule.
Arizona State.
Mark, no. Mark, no. No.
Did you get the clip? Have you gotten the clip? Fire alarm clip?
If not for the fact that we had a tornado warning that you just outlined during the show, I would have had it already.
That could have justified a fire alarm drill. Somewhere.
Our next live show, whenever that is, when it's July 1st or later on down the line,
you're gonna have to bring out that clip.
Yes,
it's the signature
folks,
moment in the history.
Here's what I'll do. I will make a deal with all of you who are in the live chat right now.
Yeah, talk to the people, Vic.
If you can get this, if we get 100 likes on this live stream, if we get 100 likes on our next live stream, I will share the clip of the fire alarm. 100 likes.
Whoa! What if he's offering you? I think $20 for the clip here,
bro.
Do we have Vimo? What do we? Can we charge? Can we get this? Can we?
I know. Was that kind of a transaction?
I mean, I think we may have something here. Vic, don't disappoint the people.
Calendine,
negotiation, 50 likes, Vic. That's quick. Come on, Vic. People.
Eric, you're the middleman. What do you say? 50 likes? 50 likes? So we put it up.
I want to see the clip too. I mean, I'll take the $20 too, though. I mean, 50 and a 20 might get the deal done. Oh, you were asking for the rights for 50? No. The rights are going to be more than $20.
No, the rights are going to be a little bit more pricey than that.
I mean, it's an iconic moment in the history of the show.
Hey, Callan, deal. We get 50 likes on the live, 50 likes on the stream. And I will share the clip on our next live stream. You have our word on that.
And folks, one thing we will tell you, all of you, Rob from Canada, Bart, Frank and I, all of you that have been there for a long time, and the new ones, thank you. Obviously, this has been a great year for us. We've moved to D1 softball. It's been incredible. We've been in the top 20. I'm going conservative on
good pods
every month since we've joined D1. I checked earlier, we're already in the top 10 this month. All making a big thing about we're going to try. One of the things we're going to work on during the season, I'm not going to say off season because there is no off season for us.
No.
But as we plan for next year, we're going to, we took this year the show on the road. We were in Oklahoma City for the Big 12 tournament. We're going to try to take the show more on the road next season now that once we get our feet wet. And we're certainly going to try to get you all. We want to meet some of you. Over. I'm just saying, I might be in Clearwater in February. So if some of you are going to be there, let us know. We want to meet you as well. Because y'all been a big part of the show. And you put up with a lot of our nonsense, which is very important.
It's a lot of nonsense.
But that means you get the show. You don't take us too super serious. Because we try to lighten things up. That's the whole point. The secret to this show there is we try
the secret sauce.
So we try to keep this loosey goosey and fun and debate and agree to disagree and all that. But this has been fun. Another year in the books. Another historic year for Oklahoma. We will have a wrap up of this World Series on the Monday edition of the podcast coming up. So we will be back. Make sure you subscribe.
Maple syrup and ketchup chips.
I don't think, Mark, I could do a clip montage of Sean from showing him in the UCF Oklahoma series. I don't think I have the rights to that. But I'm glad you noticed. Glad you noticed to that. Canada. That might Vic. You might go to Canada.
I will see what I can do.
But thank you, everybody, for the support. Keep it here on the YouTube channel. Subscribe. We'll put out some YouTube content during the off-season. Everything news will come out. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. We're still going to be on. We're going to break down any coaching moves, transfer moves, try to interview people. We already have a guest for next week, so we're not stopping. So keep it here during the off-season. That will help a lot. And then if you're a baseball fan, check out D1Baseball.com. Yeah. The Super Regionals gets going here in a handful of hours for the folks there. And then, but we're going to be on. We'll have D1 Softball. Have a full wrap up from Oklahoma City. Yes, there will be. I don't know if I don't think it's a World Cup of softball that'll be in Japan, Wilbera, but I know they always do the Japan All-Star Series. I believe they do there. Yeah, we'll do some pro softball. Vic's gonna again. Vic's not now keeping it close to the vest as far as his plans, because he knows that as soon as it gets out, somebody's gonna retire.
Yes. Death, taxes, and people retiring.
Why he goes to Chicago.
Death, taxes, and people retiring when I go to Chicago.
That's correct. So
the 3 certainties in life. Well, 4 being Oklahoma winning a national championship. So 4 certainties in life.
Correct. Yeah. And Vic with a fire alarm that images in the history of the
That's
show.
impossible in life.
It's an iconic moment in the history of the show.
And when also when we get the 50 likes, I need y'all to screenshot us at In the Circle SBN on Twitter.
That's replaced me just flipping out on the committee in 2017, hasn't it? It's the most iconic moment.
Well, the difference is that part we recorded that the Monday after that infamous selection show where Minnesota was not selected to host,
and I was still ticked off. That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, but me, that happened literally live.
Yes. That's what made it amazing. That's what made it amazing.
This was before we had all the fancy graphics that you see at the top and at the bottom and everything else. So
very true.
Trust us, folks. That was a
late night. It was a late night. We thought we were cleared.
Don't worry. I will get 50 likes to this video, screenshot it to us, and I will work to get the clip for our next live stream. You have my word on that.
There you go. You heard it from him. Heard it from him right there, ladies and gentlemen. Keep it on In the Circle SB on social media. We'll be there. Keep it on D1 Softball as well. All the transaction moves will be first on D1 Softball. We'll break it down here on In the Circle. I don't know if Texas Tech BYU could have made it to the World Series. They would have liked to at least been to a regional.
Yeah.
Yes. Keep it all here. And again, congrats to Oklahoma. They win it. They beat Texas. I'm just bummed out. Vic, I'm just bummed out we didn't have a game 3.
No. It is what it is.
But anyway, for Vic Anderson, thanks to head coach Jamie Pinkerton for joining us here during the Champ Series. Thanks to Laura Trout. Thanks to Karen Kumar. Thanks to Kat Osterman. Thanks to Cindy Ball Malone. They all contributed during our World Series coverage on the podcast and on the live shows, respectively, as well. So I want to mention them as well on this incredible coverage that we try to provide you, give you every different angle possible that nobody else does like we do. For Victor Anderson, the best producer in the business who could work even when there's a fire alarm or tornado warning. I'm Eric Lopez. This has been another edition of In the Circle.
Top podcasters out. Congrats, Oklahoma. Good night, Canada.